controlling their circumstances. Those without are controlled by them. One is not always able exercising good judgment. Um, well, he had some sort of surplus, and he exercised judgment he did not have to. This is simply not conforming to the norm choices others would have chosen against their will. Plus, a truly virtuous man would come to the aid of a distant stranger equally as he would a close friend. Then again, a truly virtuous man would have no friend. If you read the words carefully, Jesus said during the Last Supper, he referred to his disciples as no longer being his servants, but his friends instead. The quality of a good leader is one able to disappoint his own people at a rate they can absorb. There is no way even God himself in the flesh, as one of us, could have spoken a language all would understand. It's even possible the words Jesus spoke weren't even meant for the masses who gathered to hear him, but for a selected few within the audience he saw as being vulnerable to being persuaded into following him. I had to break it up. Sometimes the human heart needs more than the old way can give it. For example, the Samaritan woman at the well. Jesus was on her turf, already at the well, waiting for her when she came to fetch water. A daily routine with a predictable habit for all women of her time. And all he had to do was tell her everything everyone else in her village already knew about her. Nothing new at all for her to hear, except from an unexpected stranger who said it with kindness and without judgment. Then he sits back and lets her do all the work for him, spreading the news of someone they all thought viewed them with disdain. Sounds to me as if Jesus made new friends. What makes you think the previous men of her life didn't say sweet things to her as well in the beginning? It would have worked no other way. Jesus was crafty, and this is still called empathy. And manipulation and deception eliminate the possibility of consent. Just don't get too carried away with this true Christian thing again. I like your Christ. I do not like, just do not get carried away with this true Christian thing. Again, I like your Christ. I do not like your Christian. Your Christians are so unchristlike. Gandhi. It can still be done without the need to label yourself a true Christian. Let others do it instead. It means so much more this way. And I had to break it until we did the rest of it. It was Bert's mother crossing over to my side of the street, first introducing herself to me and her husband Bob, nationally known pastoral consultant George Robert Gary, Senior Doctor of Theology, associated with Emory University's Campbell School of Theology, who as usual was not at home. After living several years across the street from his parents, this was the first time meeting anyone face to face from that household. There was a reason it had to be them introducing themselves to me first. And this old woman finished telling me they had been approached by property developers offering them twice the value of their property to sell on the condition all 7 consecutive lots across the street from me agreed to sell. I then told the clueless woman very pleasantly, my name is James Avery. I'm a veterinarian. I live in this house. Not only am I gay, I am atheist as well. Very pleasantly, I introduced myself to this woman this way. Oh, we're not that kind of Christian. She quickly brushed me off with her immaculate ejaculation. And the reason why I call it immaculate ejaculation is because an ejaculation is an abrupt utterance. Immaculate, it basically became my word against her word. And that's my point. All you have to do with true Christian is beat them to it. Then they hang themselves from that point on, living for all eternity in the present. It never failed. We all arrive at the future at the same rate of 60 seconds per minute. All of us. If you're able to broaden your horizon, research Carl Jung's collective unconsciousness. And that was it. So, if had they let me finish, they would have known I'm biblically literate to some degree. I don't claim to know everything, but I'm not stupid about the Bible. And yet, like I said, let others do it for you instead. It's far better for others to call you a true Christian than for you to call yourself a true Christian, assuming what your definition of a Christian is. So, that's why I call myself simply Jim. Actually, how I first got started, my name was James Edward Avery, but back home in Arkansas, people call me Jim Ed. But I would introduce myself here in Georgia and everywhere else I went as my name's Jim Ed, or you can just call me simply Jim. Well, I'm gay, and you go online cruising for sex, now you have a hot job masculine, very GL, all that. And, again, that's the same thing. Labeling yourself a true Christian only. This is different. But it's still labeling yourself. That just like, I'd rather make that decision myself. I may not agree that they're good looking. I may not agree that they're straight acting. I may not, and so forth. Hot jocks. Simply Jim, and I will let everybody else label me however they want. Just like Alton said in the movie, the movie, Narnia Chronicle. In your world, you must call me by another name. Well, people are going to call me by another name, whether I approve of it or not. And usually that's the asshole. Why am I such an asshole? Why am I such an asshole? Why am I such an asshole? I'm not an asshole to everyone. I haven't met them all yet. This point aside, nor am I an asshole to everyone for the same reason. You're going to have to tell me more. I just met you. And experience is nothing more than nature's cruel way of giving the exam first, followed by their lesson. Just call it negative theology. So I'm going to call it quit right there. And basically, the 12-step program will not work for me because they are just too grounded in faith. With America being roughly 80 to 87% Christians to begin with, just our Christians alone, well, as far as I'm concerned, that thing about the higher power was just a marketing move, just so they can appeal to devout more people, and faith has nothing to do with it. In fact, what that 12-step program ended up doing by shutting me down, not allowing me to talk about my faith, well, they turned, a bunch of deviant stigma, turning me into a deviant stigma because of my faith, lack of faith. But again, if there is a God, by definition, I agree, there can only be one. Anything slightly remotely in competition with a God, then God ceases to be, fit the definition of a God. So we get the God we have, not the God you choose. Well, I choose to go about a different way. Mine called negative theology, and the way I look at it is, as you will find no two people on this planet agreeing as to who God is and what it means believing in this God exactly the same way, then there are just as many people. Then there are just as many gods as there are people claiming to believe in God. Well, again, like I said, if there is a God, then we get the one we have, not the one we choose. Don't go mistakenly believing just because I call myself an atheist, label myself an atheist, this automatically puts God behind you against me. No, that's not the way it works. By claiming to believe in zero God as opposed to one God, this basically leaves the only God available being my witness, the genuine, if truly one indeed does exist. So only my God be witness to us all, and a completely inclusive belief. Like I said, I am a deeply spiritual non-believer. So I think we need to get God out of the way because too many people are abusing the meaning of it, hiding behind it, and that's getting in the way of everything, including my crystal meth addiction trying to get off of it because it's hard to find a place where, group where they don't have this higher power thing. So they just will not work for me. So that's why I'm going after preachers. I want them to be my sponsors. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, and whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. That's John speaking. Right up until John 1 to 15, John 3:16, 1 to 15, Jesus basically sounds like a science teacher. If I speak to you of earthly things and you do not believe, how then will you believe when I speak to you of heavenly things? Hell, God needs to go. And that John 3:16 is nothing but a cognitive dissonance reduction chant, a dope on a rope played on a loop by the Christians. So rather than look down on women, rather than look down on the minority, rather than look down poor people, I'm going to turn my addiction back as crystal meth addiction is the addiction all other addictions look down upon. I'm going to instead loop it back around, back to the most abused addiction of them all, which is John 3:16. And I'm going to go after these preachers and expect them to be able to be my sponsor and listen to me, what I have to say, how I want to say it, when I want to say it, and without their faith feeling threatened. And that's why they're all on the run from me. I can't get any of them to sit and listen to me. They are all on the run. The preacher. And the Garys are the... so basically I've come to the conclusion that Doctor of Theology, as it relates to George Robert Gary Sr., Doctor of Theology, basically still nothing but a preacher trained to sound like a professional quack. That's all Doctor of Theology is.